Navigation. Welcome to the Navigation Bylaw hearing. We're just reconvening for the purposes of dealing with one minor issue that we hadn't quite resolved at the hearing, and apologies for that. Clause 22 raised some issues. Some issues were raised by submitters that we have looked into, and then thought we really needed to reconvene to ask either legal or Steve some advice on. And so welcome back. The issues came up in two submissions, and we just wanted to test the definition of commercial ship versus small commercial vessel, and whether that is clear. That is the first question, I think. Does someone want to advise us if there's any issues there?
From my point of view, commercial vessel should be the wording.
So commercial vessel, what does that mean? Because we've got a definition for commercial ship in the Maritime Act.
Yeah.
Which?
That's a vessel operating under Maritime New Zealand's either international or national rules to operate on a commercial basis, as opposed to a recreational vessel, which is not earning money.
Yep. And so the definition for that, in the Act, it talks about solely powered by sail, solely powered manually, I think, and pleasure craft for a commercial ship. That definition in the Act as compared to the word commercial vessel. Is it clear, the differentiation?
I've not got the Act in front of me.
Oh, sorry, I thought I had referred that to you when in the email. Apologies. So, and this is just making sure that we're covering off the bases and it's clear, because it's hard with so many pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
So commercial ship, not commercial vessel, means a ship that is not a pleasure craft or solely powered manually or solely powered by sail. It doesn't talk about passengers, but under the definition of passenger, it does talk about not being a crew member or not being a master.
Yes.
It doesn't talk about payment. And I just want to make sure that what we mean, if it's commercial ship or commercial vessel, that we've dealt with that properly. And I also want to make sure that we're really clear that, and what you just said is it's someone paying, which is something, again, which is over and above a passenger.
So my view of that is, and Michelle will probably have a legal view on it, is that commercial vessel is separate from the commercial ship definition. So that's where the catch-alls are, because a recreational boat would not be carrying paying passengers, whereas a commercial vessel would, licensed under whichever regime they're under to run. So that's the catch-all for us. I don't think we define a commercial ship in our bylaws, but we do define a vessel. We don't define a commercial vessel. A commercial vessel is taken that's a vessel plying a trade.
Okay. I think that, our concern is that it's similar wording and may lead to. But then the biggest issue is, you've got someone taking passengers out, paid or not, potentially. Say it's commercial. They're paid to go out. There's 4 people, passengers on board, on a yacht, and a fog comes in. Is it that they have? I mean, they should have had an AIS or foresawn the fog coming in, is what you're saying they wouldn't be, because at that point, if they, what is visibility? What is the poor visibility you're talking about? I suppose is then the question, and how do we know that? And is it
Reduced visibility is defined in our bylaws as 0.75 of a nautical mile, and we use it, or restricted visibility. It's in the preamble, so it's quoted as what it is, and
I'm
we
sorry.
use it. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I've got several things open, so I'm just going through that.
Yeah. So restricted visibility is 0.75 of a nautical mile, and we use it in the commercial world for environmental parameters for commercial shipping in and out of the harbour. There's always the issue that you may well start out in good visibility and the fog comes in to beyond that level and you have no choice but to navigate in it. But the guidance for all commercial vessels in our harbour is that you should not navigate if you know that you've got less than 0.75 of a nautical mile. That sits under our safety management system for mainly for the big ship stuff. But what we're asking is if you are navigating and you're a commercial vessel, that you have AIS on, because that gives us a better picture of vessels other than just trying to catch them visually. We can actually see them electronically on the system and they can see each other as well.
Yeah. So I'm going back. Sorry, this is going to be slightly tedious. So the restricted visibility, you said is in the preamble. I can't.
Yeah, sorry. In the definitions at the start, restricted visibility means any. I'm looking at
I
the
can't
old.
see
Hang
it.
on,
Sorry.
I need to look at the old one over the new one. Bear with me, Kate.
Sorry, I couldn't find it, and that's why I'm checking. That's why we asked the question.
Bear with me. Yeah, we've got it taken out of here in the new version. We've had it scrubbed out because it's in the national rules. That's it states in the Act what restricted visibility is, and one of the things MNZ said to us, don't double up on stuff.
Yeah.
Where they don't see fit. But essentially, I'm happy to read it. Restricted visibility means any condition in which visibility is restricted by fog, mist, falling snow, heavy rainstorms, sandstorms, or other similar causes.
Okay. I'm just wondering for clarity, because we're finding it hard to navigate. And it's probably a Michelle question. Can we have would it be appropriate in these instances to have a general asterisk where it refers to a maritime rule and maybe two asterisks where the definition may be found in Maritime Act? It just seems it's quite tortuous process to read it otherwise.
Yes, I think you could still have the term restricted visibility in the definition section of the bylaw, but then you would say, in terms of the definition of restricted visibility, you would say refer to the definition in the Maritime Transport Act, and then you could have in italics what that definition is.
Yeah.
So you can have it in a way that the definition is what is in the legislation. And so it's effectively guiding readers to what that definition is in the legislation rather than the bylaw.
Yeah. Yes.
Stating, defining that term.
Yeah. And I think you should be able to read one document and not have to guess, or at least be directed to where that definition is, because otherwise things are lost. I understand where Maritime New Zealand was coming from, but that's where you're trying to redefine something against what is in there.
Yes, and you see that sorry to interrupt, you see that as an example with the national planning standards for resource management plans and how terms that are used in the RMA are defined. You still can find them in a plan, but it's clear that the definition is from the RMA. So if the panel would like to see that approach in the bylaw, you could ask staff to update that definition section by putting the terms back in, but with reference to the legislation and the rules, so the document can be read as a whole.
Okay, so Michelle, the next question then, and that's a really helpful answer, and I'm not making deliberations yet, is because we've got the words commercial ship or commercial vessel ones defined, and passenger is defined. Is there some anomaly if we're not ensuring that there's consistency in that language?
I think there is, so commercial vessel in the clause 22 is a different term and a different meaning from commercial ship in the Maritime Transport Act. So it's intended that commercial vessel means something different, is my understanding from Steve, and therefore if it's not clear around what commercial vessel means, so vessel is defined, and then I think this bylaw would benefit from a definition of commercial or commercial vessel in the context of this clause to make it clear what is meant by that.
Okay, thank you. And then the nub of the, and sorry, please, it's hard to see everyone because I'm looking at the screens differently. It would be helpful if you need to, other members of the panel, but going to the actual nub of the submissions is the fact that people were concerned about the cost of having to do that, and whether the cost was justified. And we have, I don't think, any evidence on what it would cost someone who's running a small-time commercial business as a small commercial vessel. What does that likelihood of front-up costs to put in the equipment and to operate it?
Yeah, okay, maybe I'm best placed to answer that, or try it at least. I think when we put the comments in the feedback, most of the commercial operators are utilising an AIS system of some description. So for vessels 15 metres and over, I would expect to see a really high percentage of those people are already operating with an AIS system, and it's a case of having it switched on whilst they're within the harbour. For vessels that are not carrying AIS, there are two versions of the AIS system, an A and a B. One is a commercial one, one's a recreational one. They basically give the same electronic signal, but essentially a commercial version is around somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 for installation, and the recreational version is around $500 to $1,000 on a recreational system, grade B. A lot of recreational users have AIS installed because they're of a conscience. They're aware that it's a really good mechanism to use, both that they can transmit their position and location, and that everybody else who's got an AIS, which is most of the commercial world these days, can also see that vessel, and vice versa. So there's a really high safety factor in having this, especially in the harbour where we are. We're aware it's one of the most challenging entrances in New Zealand, so having as much AIS overview is actually a real high safety factor for us. I think does that cover it, Kate?
Well, it helps. I'd be really clear, and I think I was in the questions. It is the submission, I think, limits us in this context to small commercial. They both, I think, referred to small commercial, that it was that area that they were concerned about, because obviously the loadings are smaller, the likelihood of people, and I think they were just talking about very small operations. And the other question we had is whether those concerns, or would it be, if there was is it the whole of the harbour, or is it really the channel that we should be excluding them from in those instances, presuming that generally they will be able to be outside of the channel sailing or operating, if that weather or the visibility or the night came?
Let's track it back a little bit on that. So we're going for 15 metres and over.
Yes. No, under. No, 15. We're talking small. We're talking small.
But we're only asking for AIS to be operating on vessels of 15 metres or over.
No, sorry, or anyone carrying Any?
Passengers, commercial passengers underneath.
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect any commercial vessel to be outside of the channel.
So the port to port?
Yeah. In the channel.
All of it.
In the deep parts of the water.
All of those operations are always in the. Okay.
I can't, this is a conversation I have with the Monarch team quite a lot, and we've had a number of incidents of commercial operators going aground because they're outside of the channel. So my view of that as a professional is that they should be operating inside the channel. There's nothing in their SOPs or their safety plans that says they can go outside and go aground, or they can hit rocks or do whatever. If you tell somebody to go outside of the channel, then that's not a safe scenario for navigating a vessel of any size, from my point of view. So I would expect all commercial vessels, unless they've got some specific cover within their operation and their safety parameters that says we will do this, I'd expect them all to be inside the channel. That's why we've had a number of operators go aground over the past 5 years, because they're outside of the channel. So I can't. We shouldn't be sitting here going, yes, you can go outside and please go aground while you're at it, sort of thing. So that's what we're trying to head off. Yeah.
No, I was meaning in the instances of poor visibility, should a fog come in.
Sure.
Yeah, and it depends on the nature of the boat. But remembering a small boat, probably a low, may not have as bigger depth. And we're just wondering, so we're just checking, but you've enlightened us about the costs. Are there operational costs yearly on those AIS? And fundamentally, we should have asked this question because it is part of the submission.
Yeah, we have AIS on our boats, both of our vessels. There's no ongoing cost for us to operate them once they're installed and they're operating properly. There's no real maintenance costs or ongoing costs involved.
Thank you. Gary or Robbie, has that covered all of the issues that were raised in this with this submission and our discussion?
Yep, I think so. For me, the only question I had was, as we work our way through 22, when we get to 22(1)(e), that becomes a catch-all in the hours of darkness or restricted visibility. So A, B, C, and D all had a sort of size or number parameter, and then E is a catch-all for darkness and restricted visibility. So is that, the question I had was just around, is that our intent? That then it will be, then in that catch-all, smaller vessels, everything outside or less than any of those other parameters must have AIS.
Yeah, it was the intent, just to catch that passenger carrying piece, because they're susceptible to the same risks as everybody else when it comes to that. So it was intended to be a catch-all. I would say that D and F come very similar. I was just looking at this again before we was coming into this meeting. I was like, D is commercial vessels licensed to carry 12 or more passengers. F is commercial vessels, again, licensed as a commercial charter, which is the same thing. I think we might have overworded that to carry up to 12 passengers. So I'm not too fussed that they're both there, but I do feel we might have doubled up on that, and maybe D should read commercial vessels licensed to carry passengers would be the catch-all.
Well, then you wouldn't need E.
Exactly, I wouldn't need E or F.
So that makes it more tough than, than we had considered you were aiming for. We had thought under 12, because the risk is there's less people, that your intention had been. What is the likelihood of a under 15-metre vessel taking more than 12 people, or taking even 12 people? Passengers?
Yeah, I think you used the ideal scenario just now. Port to port can carry 20, 22 people, something like that. It's 9 metres long. There's another boat under 15 that carries more than that as well. It's got 20, 25. The Otago Taxi Company. Most of the rest are a little bit bigger and come in, caught under the medium size,
Steve?
15 metres.
Steve, I'm just going to check. We're recording this, and I think it's your mic is causing some issues, or was it mine? Is anyone else having issues here?
Don't think it's me, but I am getting feedback from something.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback at my end when you are speaking, Councillor Wilson. If it's your mic.
Sorry, were you getting this, Steve?
Yeah, you're getting a bit broken up, Kate.
Oh.
That's fine. That's answering my question, Kate. I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Robbie, have you any questions?
You're on mute, Robbie.
There. No, no, I'm happy with what Gary got to as well. Yeah.
Okay. The last questions I have are about the wording. In the draft we had something. We had semicolon or colon at the end of each A, B, C, D, E, F. I think the words should be or at the end of each of them. And I think the definitions of medium boat and large in the definition, instead of over 15 metres, I think it's more than 15 metres. I just wanted to check that you were happy with those to make the paragraphs make sense and for the definitions to be consistent. I think I sent that version through.
Yes, I looked at that and it looked, I just added the LOA as to length overall. The rest, I had no comments on the rest of it, Kate. It looked fine.
Are there any comments from you, Michelle, as far as just legalese on that?
Yes, I'm just stepping through the change from and to or in that clause.
Well, each of them having or at the end of them rather than and, because
yes, that does make sense working through each of those clauses.
Yep. Okay. So we will get back and deliberate on those. I think that answers all of the questions we had, and thank you very much for assisting at such short notice so that we can finish deliberations. I'm sorry to get into technical stuff, but let's make sure we've got this right, and we want to just check the meaning. Thank you.
Can I just quickly on point E?
Oh, yes.
It says commercial vessels operating with passengers during the hours of darkness or in restricted visibility. So if a commercial vessel is operating without a passenger, he then doesn't need his AIS on if in the middle of the night. Do you see what I mean? It says
if it's a small
as long as
vessel.
it's operating with passengers.
Yeah, but he would be a commercial vessel over 15 metres, so he'd get caught under sea. Would he not?
But if it's a small one, if it's port to port,
if he wasn't carrying passengers, he wouldn't get caught in that. No.
Okay, all good. Sweet.
And okay, thank you.